Welcome back to this week's episode of Modern Tech and Transformation. I'm Carla Hartman, and with me is my co-host, Michael Brown. We talked a few weeks ago about digital transformation maturity assessments, and part of becoming a digital enterprise usually includes your infrastructure, and sometimes that means moving to the cloud. So we want to talk today about cloud readiness assessments. And as most of you know, if you've been tuning in and listening regularly, Michael is a cloud expert. In my opinion, he's a cloud expert. So Michael, let's talk about what a cloud readiness assessment is.
Sure. So I'll say I'm a student, not an expert. But yeah, I mean, so one of the great things that we've reached at this stage of maturity in cloud is the adoption of the cloud providers, what they call the cloud adoption framework, the CAF, right? If you go look at, there's some form of CAF. As a matter of fact, Azure and Amazon call it the exact same thing. Amazon came up with it, but what's interesting is sometimes there's just natural truths about how to do it. And when you look at a cloud adoption framework, you could literally take the cloud out of it and call it a technology adoption framework, and it's the exact same process. So when we want to do cloud readiness, right, it's the same thing as adopting a new technology. So we go look at across the 6 towers or areas of a business, right? That's going to be people, business process, governance, platform, security, and operations, right? So is that 6? Yep, that's 6. Yeah. And you look at those, and we got a series of questions, right? We actually take we don't reinvent the wheel, right? There's so much good content out there. So you take Azure and AWS's cloud adoption frameworks, and Azure kind of leans a little bit more to the technology of cloud adoption, and AWS leans a little bit more to the business reasons around cloud adoption, and they both kind of meet in the middle around everything else. And so we kind of take the best of both worlds, and we've put together RTS cloud adoption framework. So yeah, we actually go through all of those towers and ask some questions. What's really cool about it is it comes out with a score. So we rate each section, right? They get added up, and it rates up 1 through 5 for each section. We come out with graphs and say like, hey, here's the areas of strength, here's the area of weakness, here's the areas that needs improvement. And it helps to kind of drive, when you're thinking about your cloud adoption strategy, why you're adopting cloud, especially if you've gone through or are about to go through a digital transformation maturity assessment, that'll feed into the DTMA. And it really helps you to understand what are your assets and what are the things you need to invest in before you start moving to cloud.
So here's some stats. Agree or disagree? You are 1.5 times more likely to save money on your cloud migration if you do a cloud assessment.
Oh yeah, I agree.
So stat number 2, organizations are 2.5 times more likely to have a successful migration if they do a cloud readiness assessment.
Yeah, I agree with that. Because really, when you go through the assessment, you get everyone, either virtually or actually in the same room, and you go through the questions, and everybody starts discussing these questions. And what's interesting is there's always certain questions, right? There's no right or wrong answer. Like you're not going to fail a cloud assessment, a readiness assessment. But there's a lot of questions that generate conversation in the room, right? That are sticking points, that are known issues, right? So it brings it up. And so once you go through that process, even if there's people who aren't truly on board with going to the cloud, it still brings them along and they feel like they're heard.
Yeah.
Because everybody gets input.
Yeah, and we've talked many times about how important culture is making any type of change. So change management is huge in any type of IT project.
It is.
Last interesting stat I read about cloud readiness assessments, that organizations that undertake them are 1.2 times less likely to have security incidents when migrating.
Well, I mean, one of the towers that we focus on is security, right? We want to understand what the security is that you do today, what are your security practices, how do you handle incident response, and then how does that look in the cloud, right? One side of it is how you are instrumented in working on it today, and then the other side is how would you do that in the cloud, right? So anytime you're preparing ahead of time, you're going to see the benefits of that. So it doesn't surprise me that you're 20% less likely to have a security incident in the cloud if you plan for it. I would hope it would be more.
Yeah. Well, it's at 1.2 times less likely. I don't know what that is as a percentage. I was just looking at stats. But last question I have, so this is going to be a short and sweet episode, so great for a short car ride. Have you ever had a successful cloud migration without a readiness assessment?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. But it really went to, when you look at something like that, when you don't go through some sort of assessment up front, some sort of planning with the people that are going to be responsible for the cloud, those scenarios have always ended in, at some point there was a misunderstanding. At some point there was, oh, I didn't know that. At some point there was some sort of thing that had to be mitigated in flight, right? Which could be a change order. It could cause delays. It could cause a lot of things, right? So I've never had one be successful and go as smoothly as the ones that we've done assessments on ahead of time.
Okay. Any other areas of cloud assessment that you think our audience should know about? It is a service we offer at Resolve Tech Solutions, and as Michael just said, it's highly recommended just to make sure everything goes smoothly. Doesn't mean you'll fail without it, but it'll go more smoothly if you do. So, Michael, we've covered some statistics. We've covered what a cloud readiness assessment is. Highly recommend it. You can go without it if you're migrating, but it'll make it smoother. Anything else you want to add about cloud readiness, cloud migration to our audience?
Sure. One, even if you're already in the cloud, right? So a lot of customers, they might be using Microsoft 365, or they might be using Salesforce Cloud. So there's a lot of clouds that you might already be in and go, well, I'm already in the cloud. It's too late for me to do an assessment. Not true. If you've started your cloud journey and you've not done an assessment, you may not be taking advantage of all the incentives and credits that might be available for you. So one of the things about an assessment is we come back and, once we get an understanding of your infrastructure and your workloads, we already have relationships with the cloud vendors and we understand what incentives and credits are available, right? So we can give you an idea of what that might look like. We just worked with a customer recently that we got over $350,000 in credits.
Wow.
Right, it paid for their migration and paid for their a couple of months of usage, just because we went through and did an assessment and worked with the cloud vendors to bring it up. So you might be leaving money on the table.
Yeah.
So definitely take contact us and get a cloud assessment.
Yes. And if you'd like to contact us, you can go to our website, resolvetech.com, and drop us a contact form. But thank you, Michael. Yeah. That was really eye-opening, especially that last little tidbit about the cost savings. And we will see y'all next time.